Naveenji, I'm coming back to you. If there was a problem with the ownership and title of Idgah Maidan, why did it take more than 150 years for it to be challenged? Why only in the last 2 years has the corporation become so active? Why has it become far more active when we are so close to elections? This is an argument that Mr. Kapil Sibal also made in the court. I agree it's not a legally tenable argument, but it does point out to some political compulsions behind these decisions of the local corporation. Answer that.
Well, I don't agree with Kapil Sibal because he is the one who also wanted the Ram Janmabhoomi matter to be also held in abeyance for many, many long years. He's got his personal agenda. What has happened, if you see all over the country, it's a social phenomenon. It's a part of sociology, which we have to understand. That for a long time, the Hindu community has been dormant. And they have not been so vigilant about their rights, and they have always been outstanding pacifists. It is the last few decades they have started questioning, especially when their rights have been trampled upon, all their temples have been controlled by the government, money taken. So all this awakening is happening on the Hindu front for a long time. So definitely they are questioning many things. So these questions are bound to arise, not only in relation to the EIdgah Maidan in Karnataka, where their elections are bound to come in future. But all over the country, this is going to happen. And it has just started happening also. So you cannot deny this particular social phenomena which our nation is going through. So now ultimately the question will arise that anybody who is claiming the land, see, nobody is going to grab the land. The government is not going to pass any wrong law in the parliament despite having the majority, because there is something called Supreme Court also in our country. So my learned co-panelists cannot threaten us of the reaction on the road. Okay. There is a police machinery also to help us. So ultimately the whole question will boil in a civilized society that anybody who's got a claim, it is his duty to substantiate the claim.
But Naveenji, the argument which is made here, and I'm looking at section 5.4 that Tauseef was talking about under the Waqf Act 1995. And it says that the state government shall publish a report and forward a copy of the same to the board. And this is a list that the government has to prepare of a particular Waqf. And if anybody has any problems, you can have them addressed in the next 6 months. Tauseef, is your argument that this kind of survey or listing of this property was already done by the state government? Is that your argument that you were making earlier?
Absolutely. Because this list would the board, Maharashtra State Waqf Board, once it has recognized, it has listed, and not only that, there are prior to that listing, I have referred to 1964, which is the argument of the Waqf Board as well. That even in the Justice Hidayatullah judgment 1964, it is mentioned in the suit itself. The corporation side also had admitted that yes, prayers are being held. So there are proof. It is not as if there is no proof. What today what the other side is doing is they are asking for title deed. Now there cannot be title deed. It is not a criteria at all of the Waqf property to be characterized as Waqf property that they have to prove title deed. Especially those land which are 200 years old, which became a Waqf land long before independence. That is not the law. If you really want that law,
I take your point.
Just 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Just 30 seconds.
Yeah.
You see, there are Muslims who had land before independence. They went to Pakistan. Then Enemy Land Act and provisions will apply to that.
Sure.
But those land which were dedicated as Waqf land, there is no legal provision which allows the Indian government to take over those land. And or use it as they please. These are the land dedicated for use for one purpose, and that purpose cannot be changed. Is the argument?
All right. Cutting across to my colleague Harish, who's reporting from the ground. These are the updates that you continue to get from the Supreme Court. Mr. Mukul Rohatgi, who's arguing from the side of the municipal authority, says that yes, there's a judgment, but that judgment is not binding in nature. And the entire mention of it being a Waqf property is a fleeting mention that has been done in that entire case. The judgment of Justice Hidayatullah that is being cited by most of the people who are talking about this entire matter. Mr. Mukul Rohatgi, the former Attorney General, the top lawyer of this country, has been at the forefront of many big legal debates in this country, is holding fort for the Bengaluru Municipal Corporation. Harish, coming back to you. Just few minutes ago, you got us those visuals of a march happening, 1,500 strong. You had the Rapid Action Force, you had the police authorities. What is the message that the state government is trying to send? And Ganesh Chaturthi is tomorrow. Ahead of Ganesh Chaturthi, what kind of security arrangements are being made? Because this sort of debate is having an implication in different parts, including Bengaluru, Hubli, and maybe other parts as well.
Well, whether it's in the court, on the ground, or for the optics, the government wants to say that law and order can't be the pretext on which somebody can be denied celebrating Ganesh Chaturthi at a public property. Remember, the government calls this now a playground, a public property, not an EIdgah Maidan. That's not how they are classifying it.
Yeah.
So that's the message. That's something that's been articulated in the Supreme Court as well, that this can't be the ground on which you can deny someone from celebrating Ganesh Chaturthi. Let's keep it to the ownership matter. Even there are two important clarifications that the government is trying to make here. They are saying that one, just because this hasn't been done before, can't be the ground that now you say we can't do it further. The ownership has now been clarified, so we want this to happen. We are looking at it in a favorable manner. We are okay giving permission to people who have sought, applicants who have sought permission to celebrate Ganesh Chaturthi. Second, as you rightly mentioned, this 1964 verdict as well, they are saying it's a fleeting mention. It doesn't give clear-cut title deed to the Waqf board. They're saying it's a fleeting mention. It's not a clear-cut order to either the Waqf board or to the municipal body back then, which was the Bangalore municipal body. That's also something that they're making very clear. In a way, point by point, taking down the claims of the Waqf board to whatever that they have said to back their claim that this property belongs to the Waqf board.
All right. My colleague Harish Upadhyay reporting all the details. Harish, can you also take us through the key arguments that Mr. Mukul Rohatgi has made so far from the side of the municipal corporation?
Well, there are some more bits that's coming out. In fact, Mukul Rohatgi tells the court that properties that don't belong to anyone are of the government. It was a suit for injunction, not for title. And he says Survey 40 has been noted as Sarkari land. And if he's, in fact, the way says if he's wrong, he's in contempt. And in fact, Rohatgi responds to that saying, no, every day we cite Supreme Court judgment. It is his understanding. In a way, he's saying that there might not be clear titles in favor of Revenue Department. But the fact that the Waqf board doesn't have any titles to prove ownership of this land, and for a good number of decades nobody has claimed this land, so it technically belongs to us now, belongs to the government, to the Revenue Department. Remember, that's the reason the BBMP initially sometime in July claimed ownership of this land, went back, checked their records, came back and said, well, we do not own this property, this probably belongs to the Waqf board. And when there was a huge uproar and the government asked the BBMP to not talk about title deed unless they have clarity, that's when it became even more clearer that even the Waqf board perhaps doesn't have any papers to back their claim. And eventually the Revenue Department, via its Joint Commissioner, asked for the Waqf board to furnish any details or any documents to back their claim. The Waqf board failed to do it. So eventually the Revenue Department said, well, this belongs to the government. So nobody has clear title deeds over this property. That's something that's very clear. The Waqf board, depending on a few government communications and a reference in a Supreme Court order.
That's an